I've been doing some testing. I did the stitching on this one, but what I'm finding is the material is actually has a different shrink rate than the tape, and this actually wrinkled more than the Blenderm, and so I initially cut the strips of the Dacron and then placed them over the battens or the thin carbon, and in a sense to see if I could get rid of the wrinkles. And as you can see, this one here is wrinkled, and it's even more so than the Blenderm. So then I started to work with something else, and I'm going to show you on that wing there the latest update for the Thunderbird, and it's going to consist of a couple of additions that I've made. One of them affects the performance, and then the other one is more or less a cosmetic thing, but you know, it's all about trying to make something even better and then sharing it. So to start with, let's talk about the wing. This wing here is just a couple of days old. It's got about 15 flights on it now, maybe. And if you notice, number one, I didn't stitch anything up here, back here, and I don't have this tape back here. However, I did stitch in this area here on both sides of the carbon going back, and then across and around the edge of the backbone, and that's just simply to keep this tape from lifting around this piece of carbon and around the backbone. And I think that's probably the only stitching that you'll need to do. The other thing is, if you notice these carbon pieces, I actually glued these carbon pieces in place, and right about here I will put up a picture that shows the glue that I used. And now you can also get, I have not tried it yet, but I've been told it's basically the same thing. And this glue is readily available off of eBay. And now with that glue, you simply put in a bead, just a small, very small bead of glue, the length, and then drop the carbon into it. And then I use just a plastic knife to press the carbon down into the glue, and I left it. I did not try to smear the glue or anything. I just basically have glued the carbon to the material using that glue, and then I let it set overnight. And then the next day I went ahead and cut strips. These are 9/16 wide, and I cut these strips and then placed them over the carbon and then pushed them down using a piece of balsa wood as a squeegee, and glued it down. And then I went on and added this piece of tape over the top, and again this piece was glued down as well as these pieces. And one tip that I should share about the front on the leading edge, whenever you cut your outline, you cut the outline out, you can take the line off of the back of the wing, but on the front you want to leave that edge, leave that line on there, because that's going to give you just a slight larger opening. If you cut it off, then you actually make this pocket right at the verge of being too small, so it might give you some trouble or issue whenever you go to push in your rod. But if you'll leave the line, just cut right next to the line, and if you leave a little extra, that's okay, but you want to at least leave the line, and it'll give you the perfect size pocket. Also, you want to make sure that you mark this a 1/2 inch back, and that's where this piece of carbon starts going that way. So you want to make sure you got a 1/2 inch space right here. The clips that I talked about, for right now, we're going to discard those. We're not going to use those. I found out that if I do one other thing, I can eliminate the clips, and of course eliminating the clips eliminates weight, and that is this upgrade here. Now what I have here is a 1/4 inch spacer with a number 4 fender washer on top, and then of course another fender washer and the bolt going through and a washer on the bottom. Now your kit would have come with a bolt, the number 4 fender washer, another fender washer on the bottom, and you would have bolted this together. And so what I've done now is added the spacer. So I've said in a previous video, if I do an upgrade or an add-on, then there will be no charge for the parts. I only ask that you cover the shipping. So if you will send me your name, the color of your Thunderbird whenever you ordered it, let me know what color wing and what color tail that you had placed an original order for, and then I will be able to look you up, and I will need your ship to address, and I will send you, for shipping cost only, the spacers, which will be 2 1/4-inch spacers, number 16 bolt that's a 3mm, and 2 additional fender washers. So you can have those parts for the cost of the shipping, or you can go down and pick them up locally. If you can find, all you need is a 1/4-inch and a 1/4-inch spacer and an extra flat washer, and all you do is mount those in between the backbone and the mount on the frame. And what that's going to do is it's going to give some positive incidence to the wing, which will lower the needed flap rate to maintain flight, and so therefore you can fly at less power. And so what I'm doing is taking off at about 3/4 power and then coming back and flying, depending on the wind conditions, I'm flying at about half power now. So that's the updates that I have. Again, if you send me your name and the model colors that you received and your address, I will gladly ship you these required parts to add this update. Any of the kits shipped after 8/22 will have these parts included. With the changes, the spacer and gluing the battens and the carbon in place before taping, you can see the results. The wing's actually looking pretty good. However, on the tail I did not glue those, but I did use a different tape. I actually used the same tape here, which is a ripstop repair tape. So that is ripstop nylon repair tape, not Dacron on the battens, but this tape here on the sides, here, and on the bottom, that is actually the Dacron tape. So our wind is up. You can see the windsock out here. So we've got a little more wind. It's kind of gusty. I think we're looking at probably 8-10 mile an hour. And I'm going to go ahead and get you a takeoff, a launch, and as well as a flight. Okay, so now I'm going to be flying and shooting the video. And you can see I've gotten some altitude, so I've come back on the power some. Maybe we can see where the throttle is. Okay. So I'm just going to hold that flap rate. Make nice slow turn. This is a Thunderbird wing with glued battens and a 1/4 inch of incidents located at the front of the backbone. And again, you can see where my throttle is. Come up a little bit. Headed into the wind, so I like to keep a little altitude. That actually gives me longer flight time because I can slow the flap rate down and take a little longer to get down. And I'm also flying with a 1300 milliamp battery. And according to my timer on my radio, almost 4 minutes, I think. Right at 4 minutes now. So with 1300, I should be getting at least 5 minutes. And of course the low voltage alarm hasn't started going off, and when it does, depending on how high I am, I can actually get another minute after the alarm starts going off. Okay, so there's the first sign of the alarm. So let's go ahead and bring it in. So I'm going to be landing and videoing at the same time. Using a 40C 1300 milliamp battery, and my battery voltage was at 742, and now it's recovered to 743. And rule of thumb is you don't want to be below 7.4 on a 2-cell battery. Also note the battery location. Because I added the incidents here, I could actually shift the battery back even more. So I've moved the battery back, and if we pull this down a little bit, you can see, judging by that opening there, you can see the battery's about a 1/2 inch back into the opening, and it seemed to fly just fine right there.